In this video, I will share how to replace the Scudetto on a 2020 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. There are a couple of videos out there that I found, one of which is mostly complete, but I figured I'd share what I learned in doing the job myself. As you can see, my car came with the carbon package, which is all well and good, except that I'm not a fan of the dark Scudetto. It just disappears in the front grille. I much prefer the silver. So here we go. The tools you will need are a T55, T27, and T25 Torx tools, an 8mm deep socket that'll be used for removing the 8mm nut on a stud that goes through the Alfa Romeo emblem and holds it onto the front bumper, and a 13mm socket for lowering the front splitter. A 3-inch extension comes in handy for some of the fasteners, as well as, of course, a trim clip remover. The first step is to remove the engine bay bumper cover trim clips. The little fork tool is helpful for this. The reality is a screwdriver would have been just as easy, but it's a little more convenient because it works like a really good and effective pry bar. You'll notice that after I got the clips out here, I tried to remove the cover first out from underneath the other two on the sides. If I did this again, I would just remove all the clips and then everything would just come on up. There's no need to remove the center panel on its own. And be careful with the clips here because you'll launch them across the car like I just did there. Fortunately, I did find it. It didn't go that far. There are two other clips that live underneath the two side panels that you have to remove as well. They're a little different in design and a little trickier to get the tool in there, but not that hard after all. After getting the clips out, I made it a point to mark with a Sharpie around the fasteners that hold the bumper at the top. This helps when you reinstall it to get the bumper back exactly where it was. There is significant movement and play, or call it adjustability, when the bumper is installed here. So if you don't get it back exactly where it was, you will likely have panel gaps to the hood that probably won't be too happy with. So this just helps you put it back together the way it was. Next, you turn the wheel full lock to get access to the fasteners that hold the inner wheel well to the bumper. These are pretty quick and easy. And you need to do this because there's a fastener hiding behind the wheel well cover here that you'll see in a minute. There is one more on the bottom that, see, there's a screw right there. We'll get to the one on the bottom here in a minute. I was thinking that I probably didn't need to remove it just yet, but the reality is you'll see I'll go back in there and remove it once I thought it through. You can loosen it up and then get in there with your fingers and get the fastener out easier. Try to do it with the socket, but that really didn't help much. One thing I realized reassembling it is that little extension, the little 3-inch extension. If you use that here, it makes it much easier because it brings the ratchet up and out and clear of the fender liner. So once I get it loose enough, I can then get it with my fingers and work it out just fine. So now I went after the screw on the bottom, and once I got that out, I rotated the wheel opposite lock the other way to get access to the passenger side. This time I used a 3-inch extension, making getting that hidden screw way easier. After dropping the splitter, removing the two 13mm nuts on the bottom, you can then get the two fasteners that hold the bottom of the bumper to the chassis. The next part is by far the sketchiest. It's what made me the most concerned when I first embarked on the process, and that is removing the snap clips that are pretty much above and below the headlight where the bumper meets the front fenders. For the top one, you can get both hands, you can get fingers underneath the bottom and the top side and just give it a nice firm pull up and it'll unsnap. If you're lucky, you won't break any snaps. I was lucky this time. For the bottom one, it's really hard. Actually, I would argue it's impossible to be able to grab both the top and the bottom of the plastic to pull it. So in effect, you end up having to pop it from the bottom, from the wheel well side. And I did see some small cracks beginning to propagate where you're wrenching on the plastic. So it's sketchy. Be careful here. And you can also see in the close-ups here how the clips look like and how they grab. And so this, again, by far is the sketchiest part of the process. This is where things really began to go to plan. I originally hoped that I wouldn't need to disconnect any of the electrical or the headlight washer hoses to remove the Scudetto. Turns out you don't need to. You can just pull it away enough to reach back there and get at the screws that hold the Scudetto. You'll need a T20 Torx, and I use a quarter drive ratchet on this, and went after the screws. They are self-tapping plastic screws. Come out pretty easily. In hindsight, I would have gone after the two in the middle first. These two hold the, lack of a better term, I guess, the front crossbar aluminum bar. This is nothing but a plastic L-shaped cover that covers that, so it's black. And once you remove that, the plastic guard also just falls off. And then you have clear access to the screw at the very, very apex at the bottom of the Scudetto. Much easier to get that screw if you have this cover off. And here's the cover after it's been removed. And then you can see now the 8mm hex nut that holds on the grill. After removing that grill, a couple of snaps and the grill just falls out of the bumper. And here's the new silver Scudetto next to the original carbon fiber Scudetto that I will be installing. Of course, as usual, reassembly is just the opposite of disassembly, right? After you get the Scudetto screwed on to the bumper, I recommend the first thing you do is you put it in position and you do the snaps on the fenders first. That actually ensures everything is aligned to the snaps before you go through and attach all the fasteners and screw everything down. And here's the final result. Man, I think this is much better. If you prefer the dark carbon fiber Scudetto, I've got a grill I'd love to sell you.